I want to thank PRACHII Foundation for inviting me and also congratulate them on this phenomenal effort to bring together the next set of leaders, CXOs and aspiring CXOs from different organizations to build the next set of leaders out of India, which is fantastic. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Before I start, can I address some of the things that I heard today very, very quickly? So there was some assertions made which I thought I need to address and continue. So first there was said, Veda Parayana, Veda is not the only Pramana, or it's not the Pramana. This is patently wrong. This was corrected by Krishna in the Karna Parva, but the context of what Yudhishthira said about Veda not being the Parayana is that Veda cannot cover all the different circumstances across different parts of time. Krishna gives a great example, or a story in Karna Parva to Yudhishthira, strangely. He says, there was this old village where there is a very learned man who takes on himself to never speak the untruth. So one day, the village receives intelligence that a raiding party is going to come in and take over the village. So all the villagers run away and go and hide somewhere. Okay? So except for this learned man, the dacoits come in there and they find nobody there, and they see this guy and says, do you know where the people are? Because he's taken a vow that he's not going to say the untruth. Yes. He said, yes, they are hiding in the forest. Now, did he do the right thing or not? He points it as an example. So, dharma is subtle. These kinds of things are subtle, and it is up to our interpretation based on what it is. Second is the word dharma. Dharma is an overloaded term that can be used in different contexts, in different cases. Swadharma, Lokadharma. In Purushartha, there is Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha. It's a very different connotation. So we got to be careful about which dharma we are talking about. I also heard a lot of dating of Indian civilization, 4,000 years, 5,000 years. What makes us think it's only 4,000 or 5,000 years?
No.
The Veda itself is supposed to be anadi, beginning or endless. So we are caught in this system where we are constantly told that this is when you started. Before it was the Aryan civilization, and now there is this Brahminical practice and so on and so forth. All this is nonsense. Okay, so we have to take a perspective, an Indian perspective, rooted in our own shastras, and start believing in them before we get there. Also remember that we are the only surviving ancient civilization in the world. All the others are dead. We are the only ones surviving. Why? Okay? We are not feudal. We are made to think small. We are made to think that we are not great. We are made to think that whatever we did in the past has been irrelevant or inconsequential. That is the reason why we don't have huge success stories coming out from India. Execution, you said, was lacking. If you take the Pallavas, the Cholas, the Pandyas, the Chalukyas, and the Pratiharas, it's amazing what work they did and how much land they conquered, not by necessarily by the sword, by culture, by trade, by philosophy. That's all execution. And there was one question on negotiation, Samadhana Bheda Danda. 4 tools that are used, you asked, for execution. Narada adds 2 more in the Sabha. He says mantra and stotram. Mantra is prayer to remove evil effects from the past lives so that our future will be good. It is covered a lot in the Atharva Veda. And stotram, prayer, asking for something. Okay, so the very quick points I needed to cover. So let me get to this. I call this triple plus leadership because I'm not going to give you the story yet. I'll tell you why triple leadership is not enough. It's incomplete in many ways. Look at this picture. Who can tell me what this iconography is? Who recognizes? Krishna and Arjuna. Duryodhana. Beautiful. Fantastic. So many of you know this. Tell me what is the brilliance of this scene.
You need to be at the site first. You should be in the
He stands there. He comes first. And he chooses to stand here. Whereas line of sight and also the humility that goes in there. And understanding what you are seeking. He knows what he's seeking when he gets in there. So does Duryodhana. But he knows that he wants to have the first choice. So he's made an intelligent decision. Sign of a great leader. Okay, so this is that inspiration that we should use going forward for our thing. Before we get into leadership, let's address this point. What is the difference between a country and a nation? A country is one that has borders, it has a constitution, it has flags, and so on and so forth. But what is a nation? Does a country make a nation? India and Pakistan, same ethnicity. Can we be a nation? Impossible, right? Ethnicity, we are constantly at odds. Geographical proximity. You remember the Falklands War? Falklands being so far away from England, they wanted to be part of England, not Argentina, which was right next door. Or if you look at the Balkan Peninsula, all of them together, all of them completely different countries. Not a nation. Geographical continuity, look at Indonesia, spread across so many lakhs of acres, still together as a nation. But if you look at Cyprus, divided into two, on the same island, very small area. What about religion? Can religion be the uniting force? Look at East Pakistan and West Pakistan. When they started out, they wanted to be two countries. Within 25 years, they split. Look at Saudi Arabia, Iran. They claim to follow the same religion, but they are divided in terms of how they view, because of who wants to have power. What about language? Korea, North Korea and South Korea, mortal enemies. They speak the same language. What about Rwanda? Tutsi and the Hutus speak the same language. They are not the same nation. It's not a nation. What about Tamil, close to home? You see, the Tamils in northern Sri Lanka and central Sri Lanka are very different. Nagaraj knows this, right? It's very, very different because they not just speak the same language. Their whole approach is very different to who they are. What about political belief? Russia and China were communist countries. Now, you need to say that China was a communist country. It claims to be a communist country, but it's really a capitalist country. India claims to be a capitalist country, but it's really a communist country, right? It's a socialist country, I should say, right? So, China and Russia, they were communist countries, but they fought wars with each other. European and UK, you know the Brexit story, right? They had all kinds of common values, but yet they are not a nation. What about military might? Soviet Union occupied so much of Eastern Europe and controlled everybody. But does it exist today as a nation? What about the Ottoman Empire? Every time the Ottomans conquered a country, they made more enemies because of the ruthlessness of how they are. Closer to home, the Mughal Empire conquered most of India for some part of the time. Most people think Mughals had control over all of India. It is not true. They conquered India some of the time, most of India, not all of India. But do we know of the Mughal Empire? It's gone. What about skin tone? Most of Africa has the same skin tone. One nation, the African Union has not met in I don't know how many years. What about dynasty? We know a lot about Indian dynasty in India, don't we? Especially in the political sphere. Now, United States and Switzerland have no dynasty. Whereas in Europe, they had several dynasties. Okay? And in France, they had a dynasty that was thrown out by the French Revolution. And then guess what? They elected an emperor. And he had his own dynasty. So it's not that also. So if it's not that, then what makes a nation? So this question was pondered by several philosophers, and the underlying issue, the conclusion was, we need to have a shared vision as to who we are. We need to understand that we are part of a society working towards a common goal. We may have differences, we may disagree with each other, we may even hate each other, but then we should be willing to forgive each other, forgive past mistakes, and move on towards that shared goal, because there is a promise at the other side where you are going to be rewarded. Okay, so that is basically what a definition of a nation is. So if you were to construct this as a model, you have the individual who makes a society, who creates development, and that generates greatness. Without the individual, there's no society. Without the society, there is no development. And without development, there's no greatness. Now, some time ago, we started talking about how great we were. We were just premature. We were not together as a nation because we don't understand what a nation is. The question is, was there ever a nation in history that meets this parameter? Anybody?
Is it India a nation?
Sorry?
Is it India was a nation at some point of time? Also?
Exactly. It is called Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha is not just India. It stretched all the way from Iran to Borneo, from Russia all the way down to Maldives or Mauritius even. It's a huge span of land. We spoke different languages. There were different dynasties. We fought with each other. We had different economic systems. We had different political beliefs as such. But we existed together because we were a cultural nation. We shared in the same value systems that we had. The question is, how great was Bharatavarsha? So I'm sure that Ram Madhav might have covered this morning. There was a study commissioned by OECD some time ago, the 70s I think. The premise was a paper written by a French philosopher, historian and philosopher, who said, at the height of French Renaissance, France was nowhere near the opulence that India had. This shook everybody because the whole premise you're taught, what is the premise you're taught in your classes? That it was the Industrial Revolution that made the Europe so great and India did not keep up and therefore it fell. This challenged the entire notion. So they commissioned a person with a whole lot of economists to study the history of economics of the world over the last 2,000 years. And guess what they found? India, that's the blue line, and very conservatively, mind you, this is not a conservative study. There are other studies that says that India was above 50%, but let's stick to this study because it's OECD stamp on it, had 33% of the world economy. China, this is in, around the birth of Jesus Christ. And, I know I put in AD here because it's not my graph, this is OECD's graph, and therefore I'm forced to use this. It's not AD, but let's call it common era. Let's not pin it on somebody's birth, okay? So this is the common era where we are. We are 33% of the world economy. Now, you must have all seen these Hollywood movies, the grandeur of the Roman Empire, and how opulent they were, and so on. Guess where they were? They were 20 plus. The Ottoman Empire, we are told, the Caliphate, the Islamic Caliphate, we are told they invented so many things, they were so great. How big were they? Less than 20%. Did you show this graph? Or somebody show this graph today? Okay, there you go. That's something new. Okay? So, this is where we were, and guess what? This point is, around here, is the start of the Mughal Empire, and this is the start of the Raj. Huge fall that you see. And see the corresponding rise that you see here, from here. That is Europe. Okay? So, Bharatavarsha was this great because it followed this system of what they thought a nation was, because they involved every individual into a society who worked for the development of their country and therefore the greatness of their nation. So that is the whole premise under which I'm going to discuss. Can we look at that kind of a model for our future growth? So this, Bharatadarsha, was guided by something called Sanatana Dharma. Now Sanatana Dharma, as you know, is now called Hinduism. I'm not preaching Hinduism here, okay, that's not my point. This is purely from a philosophical and historical perspective. Question is, what is Sanatana Dharma? And we use this word a lot. There are 4 things that happen, that deal with Sanatana Dharma. Principles of the individual, karma of the individual, and then individual goals And then the society. Out of the 4 facets of Sanatana Dharma, 3 focused on the individual. Remember the model: individual, society, development, greatness. So they focused a lot on the individual to make you, each and every one of you, to be superly productive and superly effective. So you can make a good society, be a good citizen in the society, and therefore create greatness. So in the interest of time, I'm going to actually only deal with 2 of them. Normally, some of these slides I borrowed from another lecture of mine. I usually spend 1 to 2 hours to talk about some of this history, but I'm going to, and as well as these aspects of Sanatana Dharma, but in the interest of time, I'm going to just show 2 slides. The individual aspect is Purushartha. You must have all heard this term. Whenever you do a prayer, you say, Dharma, Takama, Moksha, Siddhartham, Siddhyartham, right? That's what you do. What is it? Or Purushartha, Siddhyartham, right? You say that. Why? What is it? Purushartha means human goals. They said, these are your human goals. What is the basis of the human goal? First is financial and physical security. I've changed the order a little bit. So although it says Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, I've changed it to Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Not I, but my guru. Financial and physical security is the first important thing. Why? Because without financial security, without enough money for you and your family, the Vedas realize that you cannot be an effective individual. So this is very, very important. Well, but it has to be rooted in Dharma. Pursuit of happiness. It's no fun if you have lots of money in the bank, but you don't know how to spend it. You don't know how to live a good life. You know, the last Nizam was the richest man in the world. But he stored a lot of money in the basement. He didn't use anything. He didn't use it for himself, or he never gave it to anyone. And finally, termites ate it all up, right? And he died a very poor man. He wore torn clothes. He sat on the floor on a dirty carpet, torn carpet, which I've seen actually. A friend of mine has it, and he pays a lot of money to buy that. And he used to eat on an aluminum plate. What's the point of having wealth if you don't know how to enjoy wealth? So, karma is very important. Strangely enough, there's only one constitution in the world that guarantees pursuit of happiness, the American Constitution. We don't. Right? In our Indian Constitution, we don't. Okay? Third is doing good outside of yourself. So, we reach a point in our life where we've done a lot of, we've collected enough houses, you've collected enough cars, you've gone on enough vacations, and you're wondering, what is next in my life? What am I supposed to do in my life? Now, a brilliant thought occurs to you. Is there a way for me to invest in this life so it will mature in my future lives? It's called adrishtam, adrishtapalam. This dharma, here in this context, it is adrishtam. It is not your duty. So we start doing it. And after we start doing it, we get addicted to it because it feels so good to do all these good things. And slowly you move away from a personal desire to a public desire, and you move towards moksha. I won't talk about moksha because it's very complicated. Most people are not interested. In fact, Upanishads even say at any given point in time, those pursuing moksha could be counted in one hand. Okay? So I'm not even going to talk about moksha. Okay? These are 3 important things. No, but these human goals are very key. If you're going to be a leader, you need to understand which part of the ladder you are in. Are you happy with the amount of money you have? I'm going to address your question in a little while. You asked about fulfillment. I will address it. Do you have enough money? Do you have enough comforts for you and your family? Not just for your immediate generation, for your children, your children's children, children. Have you accumulated enough? You need to understand that. Do you have all the comfort in the world? I know some people who are very rich and who prefer to live a life of poverty because they enjoy it. Some people, they are very poor and they're very happy being poor. No problem. They would take a bus. I know this 86-year-old man apparently took a bus from Bangalore to some other place. It's an overnight trip on an unreserved bus where he has to sit like this because he wants to go see his guru. He's perfectly fine. But the question is, how do you define your happiness? Okay? Is it something external or is it internal? That's the point. Third, doing good. What does doing good mean to you? How do you define good? Okay? So once you define these things and you know where you fall, you will know which step of the ladder you are in and how do you need to go forward, correct? Okay, now the second thing I need to talk about is society. So apparently there was a statement made in the morning that the caste system needs to be abolished. I agree, caste system needs to be abolished. But the understanding of what caste system means is very wrong. The Vedas talk about the Varnashrama Dharma. A lot of people have made a mistake of what Varnashrama Dharma is because they don't understand it. The Varnashrama Dharma divides society into four. No trouble there. The Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Four. They also segregated them across three parameters that nobody talks about. One is your janma, your birth, which is your jati. Second is your karma or your occupation. Third is guna or your character. Okay? So, when they talk about caste system, they only talk about the jati. Because the British could not figure out the rest. Let me give you an example. Who was Ravana? Which varna was he? He was a Brahmana. What was his profession? Kshatriya. What was his guna? Shudra. Okay? What was the jati of Vidura? Shudra. What was his karma? No, Kshatriya. What was his guna? Brahmana. Okay? So I've given you two extreme examples of where somebody could begin and where they could end. Who is the one saint that we all pray to on Guru Purnima? Veda Vyasa. Who was his mother? Was a fisherwoman. What is his jati? Shudra. What was his karma? Brahmana. What was his guna? Brahmana. So you can imagine, and same thing was for Valmiki as well. He was born a dacoit. Dacoit thievery is considered the worst possible profession somebody can have. And then he became a karma brahmana and a guna brahmana. So there are so many different examples. I've listed some of them here. Who are the two avatars that you constantly pray to? Rama and Krishna. What was Rama's birth? What was his profession? What was his guna? Brahmana. What was Krishna's jati? Well, Vaishya, if you consider him as Nandagopala's son, it is Kshatriya if you consider him as Vasudeva's son. Okay, it's a tricky one. What was his profession? Kshatriya. What was his guna? Brahmana. So you can see there are no hard fast rules in terms of where somebody can fit in. You can be born anywhere you want. It depends on your karma. I'm not going to discuss that. But where you want to do, what you want to do in your life, and where you want to go depends entirely on you. Okay? First part, answer to your question. Your question is very important because many people ask this and they don't know what to do. So the balance in society, the question is why? Why create this system? Because they figured out there are four axes of power in any nation. One is knowledge, second is power, third is money, fourth is numbers. There are four axes. They said, no one person can have all the four. They said, okay, Brahmanas, you have the knowledge, Kshatriya has the power, Vaishya has the wealth, and Shudra has the numbers. What does that mean? The Brahmana does not have power, he doesn't have wealth, he doesn't have money. All Brahmanas are supposed to be very poor, but many of us are not. Kshatriyas they don't have knowledge, they don't have money, they don't have the numbers, but they have the power. The Vaishyas don't have the knowledge, they don't have the power, they don't have the numbers. The Shudras don't have the knowledge, they don't have the power, they don't have money. Beautiful system in terms of what it is. And here are a list of people that I've listed who are born in different things, who are in different, very, very famous people. Okay, so you understand society. It doesn't matter where you are born. It doesn't matter what your jati is, as long as you know what you're going to do and what you want to be in your life. Right? So that is society. So you understand yourself, where you are in your personal ladder. You understand where you are in terms of the Varnashrama Dharma. Okay. Okay, so here's an interesting quote from Chanakya actually. A man is great by deeds, not by birth. In fact, this was used by you know whom? The same sentence in the Mahabharata, Duryodhana says this. When Karna comes to challenge Arjuna in the very first Parva, right? He comes to challenge him the very first time. He argues saying that it is not, people don't follow people of birth, they follow people who are leaders. Right? See, Duryodhana says this. Okay, so now we come to subject on hand. Before we get into dive deep into it, let's understand behaviors of successful leaders today. So we understand what the context is. Give me an example of a visionary leader, contemporary. It could be corporate, political, social, whatever it is. Abdul Kalam is a visionary leader. Anybody else? Vivekananda, Modi, yes? Steve Jobs, okay, these are all visionaries. The great thing about visionaries is they have great